It's my pleasure to now introduce Nina McConigley. She's the winner of the Penn Open Book Award and the High Plains Book Award for her remarkable story collection, Cowboys and East Indians. Nina writes about the unseen sides of the American West, and she's currently at work on a novel. She teaches at the University of Wyoming and is a sought-after speaker at literary events across the nation. And tonight she plans on examining Wyoming's most mythical and elusive creature, the jackalope. It's Nina McConigley.
Thank you. Before I start, I want to just say I just love jackalopes very much. So some of you know, but I was born in CASPER, Wyoming, which is, shout out, which is the oil city of the plains. My family moved to Wyoming from Singapore when I was 10 months old. My dad's a geologist, and when I was growing up, CASPER's population was around 50,000. We had the largest mall in Wyoming, the EASTRIDGE Mall. Yeah, awesome. It might have been 50,000 for a while, but then we had a bust, and most of my childhood, you could see a lot of foreclosed houses, and people left in droves. But when we first moved to CASPER, my parents, who are a mixed-race couple, had problems renting a house. It was the late 70s, and my mom at that time only wore saris and has a pretty strong accent. And my father, who left for the oil and gas fields almost immediately when we arrived, left my mother with the task of finding a house. We got our house as the trucker who owned it liked spicy food, and my mother traded him, I will get to this, my mother traded him for curry for a year's lease. That is literally what happened. That same trucker later sold us the house and taught me not only how to mow the lawn, and he also taught me how to drink Crown Royal, which I did. The trucker's wife taught my mother how to grill hamburgers, and she taught me how to shave my legs and how to bake a cake. The house, while rather extraordinary, and I will get to this, while rather not extraordinary, had one thing about it that was, and for me it was a creek. It had a creek in the backyard. And the creek, which starts on Casper Mountain, flowed down into our backyard, and in the summer the creek was kind of stagnant, but in the spring and in the fall it would kind of flow merrily. And my world in the summer was the creek. I would wade up and down it. I would arrange rocks to make pools on the edges. I knew all the flowers and the grasses that grew by the banks. And I loved that huge Russian olives and cottonwoods from our backyard sort of made a protective arbor. When the cottonwoods would be shutting their down, I'd make little snowballs and put them on the bank. Now, I grew up in the 80s, which was not that multicultural. So standing in the aisles of Kmart, I had two choices. It was a white doll or an African-American doll. And I wasn't very keen on either. But I had a mix of white and black dolls growing up. But down at the creek, I would pop off their heads and their legs, and I would make my own mixed doll that was both black and white. And my sidekick most of these summers was this girl across the street named Stacy, and she had this impeccably blonde, feathered hair that kind of, when it sprayed, it looked like wings off her face. And she did not like that I mixed up the dolls, and she would often hold her Golden Dream Barbie close to her chest and say, "Don't do that." Now, she was 2 years younger than me, so she actually would defer to a lot of things I did. And she was also very Catholic, and her family had a lot of religious iconography around the house. And one afternoon, I pointed, and I am getting there, I pointed to a huge angel that was above her fireplace, and I said, "She's mixed." Now, Stacy did not believe this, and she said, "No, that's an angel. That's not mixed." But I said, "No, she has bird wings, and she's a human, so she's mixed." And Stacy didn't really buy that theology, but we didn't really talk about theology as we played. So the next time she came to my house, I said, "See, that guy," I pointed to a Ganesha, and I said, "He's mixed too, because he was an elephant and a human." So that summer, we decided that we were going to make everything mixed. And we made fairies out of Barbies. We put wings on them. We took ace bandages, and we sort of cut them, and we wrapped them around the legs of the Barbies, and they were mermaids. And we we sort of went through the encyclopedia to figure out what was mixed. Stacy really liked Pegasuses and the devil. I liked sphinxes and harpies. And Stacy went as far as she put her Golden Dream Barbie's head on the head of a plastic horse. And we created a land we called Gardentopia. But then that summer we had a revelation, which was we went to the state fair in Douglas and we saw a jackalope. Now, which is awesome. So the jackalope is a mythical creature of North American folklore, and it's described as a jackrabbit with antelope horns. The word jackalope is a portmanteau of the words jackrabbit and antelope, and although the jackrabbit is not a rabbit and the pronghorn is not an antelope. So really there's already confusion around his name. So they're not correct, but many jackalope, including the original, are actually made with deer antlers. So in the 1930s, Douglas Herrick and his brother, they were hunters with taxidermy skills, popularized the American jackalope by putting deer antlers on jackrabbit carcasses and selling the combination to sort of hapless people in Douglas, Wyoming. And later, they made many similar jackalopes and sold them, and then jackalopes have sort of become, they're in bars, they're in places in the United States. Stores catering to tourists sell jackalope things like this. I don't know if you'd want that in your house. The Wyoming legislature has considered bills to make jackalope the state's official mythical creature. These are me with various jackalopes. I have clung to the jackalope for many years. I joke that they are my spirit animal. I have a tattoo of one on my back. And jokes aside, I really do. Jokes aside, the reason I like them is they are mixed race, and that's what I tell everyone. And my clinging to an animal that people look at, these are my parents, so it's my mixed race, me clinging to an animal that people look at and say, what is it, mirrors my own experience of people seeing me and wondering what I am. So, but of course, jackalopes, like Gardentopia, don't exist. They aren't real. They are the brainchild of someone who I think actually had a lot of time on their hand during the winter. But I just want to say that the population of America is 324 million. 2.65 are mixed, or identified as being mixed. When you say mixed, it means something consists of different qualities or elements. When you mix things, you're blending them together to make something new, which is great. But also being mixed can be a reaction that's sort of mixed feelings, like you can go to a movie or an election or a meal and feel mixed. So as we go forth, particularly right now in history, we're looking at a country that is more and more mixed. We all have different political leanings. We have different races, genders, religious sexualities. And to me, the lowly jackalope is symbolic of this. And when you put disparate things together, when you blend and mix, something wonderful happens. And that jumble, that combining, that amalgamation creates something pretty fantastic. Thank you.